Let's talk about contracts. I'm talking about the agreements that shape your actual day-to-day business. The ones that determine how you get paid, who owns what, and what happens if something goes wrong. I'm Liscah Isaboke. I'm a business attorney, and while I'm not your lawyer and this is not legal advice, I help small business owners and founders across the country protect themselves with contracts that actually work for them. In this video, I'm breaking down the top 3 contract pitfalls I see all the time and how to avoid them like a pro. The first major mistake is having unclear or missing payment terms. I know it sounds obvious, but you'd be so surprised at how many contracts just say something vague like payment due upon receipt with no clear structure. Here's the problem: when you don't clearly spell out when you're going to get paid, how much is owed, and what happens if they ghost you, you're putting your income at a serious risk. Let's say you're a brand designer charging $3,000 for a full web redesign package. Your client signs the contract, you send them the invoice, and then nothing. Now you're chasing a down payment or wasting time, potentially delivering work before your money ever hits your bank account. We've seen this before. That's why a well-drafted contract would lay out your payment schedule, for example, 50% upfront, 50% before delivery, and include late fees, cancellation fees, and what happens if communication stops. A payment clause just doesn't help you get paid. It creates structure, it sets expectations, and it protects you when things don't go perfectly, which they often don't. The second pitfall is to include a termination clause. This one's a very big deal, especially for service providers. If you're working with a client and things take a turn, maybe they stop communicating, they miss deadlines, or the relationship just isn't a clear fit, how do you get out of the contract? If your agreement doesn't explain how the other party can walk away, you could be stuck in a messy, unclear situation. If your agreement doesn't explain how the party can walk away, you could be stuck in a messy, unclear situation. Or worse, the other party could accuse you of breaching the contract when you try to exit. A solid termination clause outlines exactly how to end the agreement, how much notice is required, and what happens to any payments or unfinished work. Think of it like a safety net. You don't expect to use it, but you absolutely need it in place before there's a fire, even if the project goes great. Having this clause gives both parties confidence. It makes things clearer, easier, and way more professional. Third pitfall is this, and this one causes a lot of long-term damage if not done correctly. It's not clarifying intellectual property rights. Let me say this clearly. If you're creating anything in your business, graphics, brand kits, websites, content, courses, even social media captions, your contract needs to explain who owns what work once it's done. Too many times we have founders or even content creators come to us saying that a business is still using their content and they made this content years ago and they never gave them the rights to repurpose that content. Here's another real life example. A photographer does a full brand shoot for a client. The contract says nothing about image rights or usage, and a month later the client is using the photos on billboards and running paid ads, and the photographer has no say. No credit, no extra payment, and that's because the contract never defined the terms. Whether you're the one creating the content or hiring someone else to create it for you, your contract should clearly state who owns the finished product, whether you're granting any license to use it, and under what conditions. This is especially important if you ever plan to sell, license, or repurpose your content later. It's the difference between owning your assets and giving them away for free. So a quick recap. The 3 biggest contract pitfalls that we usually see are not outlining payment terms, not including a way to exit the agreement, and not defining who owns what when it comes to intellectual property. These are not advanced legal terms. They're just protections that everyday business owners should have from day one. If you're working with outdated, pieced together templates, documents that you copied from a friend, it's time to upgrade.